Do you want to talk about your mental health? Well, you've come to the right place. I'm your host. You can call me Horse. Why the long face?
Hello, you're very welcome back to the return of Why the Long Face, a podcast with me, Horse O'Keefe. I don't know what you call a return, a second coming. Am I allowed? Is that okay to say? I don't. Anyway, hello. It's been a while. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to say. I just sat down and set up my equipment for the first time in probably 2-3 months. I have a lot to fill you in on if you don't know already, if you haven't been keeping up with the TikTok or whatever. But I suppose here I'm able to go into more detail and more in-depth chats as to what the fuck was going on. So yeah, I genuinely have absolutely no plans for this podcast. I don't know what segments are going to be here. I haven't really figured out where the podcast is headed, what segments are going to stay or go or change or any of that. Podcast is not going anywhere. I can guarantee you that. I know I took a break. I had to take a break for different reasons that I will get into. But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad that I have been able to set up my little setup again and get going in the new Horse HQ. So, what have you missed? So the first thing that happened was I lost my job. Now, that in itself wasn't that bad. I mean, yeah, it kind of threw a spanner into the works in relation to like, oh fuck, what do I do now? Because obviously I was living not in a city, I was living in a small town and I don't drive, and I was kind of very limited to the jobs that I could get. I was basically let go because just the shop was very quiet and there wasn't enough need to keep 3 staff on. So look, that was just a business decision. I'm not bitter, that's just how business works. Like, that's the way of the world. I wasn't particularly great at the job either. You know, I kind of took the job because it was, again, the only job that I could get out in where I was living. So that in itself was kind of fine. And I was like, look, I'll take a few weeks. I'll draw the dole. I've paid tax. I'm entitled to draw it. I'll do that for a few weeks and I'll really put a focus on the podcast and the TikTok and all that side of things. And then basically 2 days after I lost my job, the internet in the house went and I had no internet. And that was very, very fucking annoying because it meant that I basically had to spend my days sitting around fucking twiddling my thumbs. Because, again, I lived in the bog arse of nowhere and the coverage was absolutely atrocious. So my mobile data was really, really bad. So again, all these things individually, even though there are only 2 so far, not the world's worst on their own, but together it was kind of making a bit of frustration. And then the other thing that happened was that me and my girlfriend split. Now, that is pretty much the only thing I'm going to say on the matter. I'm not getting into the specifics of the breakup because that's not fair to me, it's not fair to her. I'm not going to do that. Obviously, we lived together and stuff, so we had to both move out of the house and all that. So I basically moved back with my parents for the space of about a month and a half. And I suppose, look, I won't lie, that was difficult because my life as I had kind of grown to know it was kind of completely thrown up in the air in the space of a few weeks. And something very strange happened in that this is not the first time that I've gone through a rough patch. It's not the first time that anyone has gone through a rough patch. You know, that's life. It's always ups and downs. But it was the first time ever that, like, basically almost immediately I was like, no, fuck this. I'm not letting this get me down. I'm not letting this ruin me. In the past, I've let situations like that completely destroy me and I get completely like down for months and months and months. And I wasn't doing that. I'm not doing that again. And so I put every bit of energy and every bit of time that I had into applying for jobs, applying for houses, applying for rooms in houses, applying for apartments, applying for whatever it was. And I was going in completely blind. All I knew was that I wanted to move back to Limerick City because it sounds weird, but it's my safe space in that it's where a lot of my friends are. It's where, you know, I started the TikTok, I started the podcast. It's just, I don't know, it's just my happy place. Now, anyone else from Limerick City is probably like, what the fuck is wrong with this fella? But that's me. I don't have to, like, you don't have to justify shit to people. If you have a place that makes you happy, fucking go there, you know? And so I was actively applying for jobs and houses for a good 3.5, nearly 4 weeks of my stay in my parents' house, where I was in a little box room on a mattress on the floor. I had my sister's guitar, I had my phone, I had my laptop. That was it. And then one fateful day, I finally got a phone call for an interview for a call center. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, no problem at all. So it was a Wednesday that the interview was on at 11 o'clock. I came in, I did the interview, was done the interview by 12 o'clock, checked my phone, I had an email. Hi Owen, I see you applied for a room in a house. Would you be able to come for a house viewing at 7:15 this evening? So I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I realised, oh fuck, it's 12 o'clock. What the fuck am I going to do for 7 hours and arse around the city? So I did. I walked the fucking width and length of fucking Limerick City all day. About 3 o'clock, I was in a coffee shop and I got a phone call being like, hi, we'd love to offer you the job. So I was like, absolutely, fuck yes. And then I freaked out because obviously I was just applying left, right and centre for houses and jobs. And I was like, okay, where the fuck is this house? Now it turns out that the house is only like literally 10 minutes away from where I work, which is fucking fantastic. So I went and did the house viewing. That went really well. Got home. Got the bus home now. By the time I got home, I had been offered the room. So I basically got a job and a house started in the space of a day. And it fucking freaked me the fuck out. Like, my dad was like, oh my god, you must be so happy. And I was like, I genuinely don't know what I feel right now, because I just didn't expect it. Now, unfortunately, every time that you put your head down and actually actively try and actively work towards something, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work out. I'm fully aware that I'm extremely lucky and that something somewhere was working in my favour. I don't know what, I don't know who, but whatever it was or whoever it was, fucking thank you very much. And so the only other challenge that I had in relation to all this was when so basically I couldn't move in until after my second week of work, just with the way like my start date and the move-in date and all that fell, which was okay. It was fine. Like I managed. So I had to get the bus, and the bus fucking broke my heart, because I started work at 8 o'clock, which meant I had to get the bus at 6:25, which meant I was getting up at 5:30 to leave the house at 6 o'clock. So I was very, very tired, and the bus fucking tested me. But again, my mindset is what kept me getting through. And I'm very surprised. I don't know how, I don't know why. Like, I suppose I do know, on the fact that I've been doing a lot of continuous work on my mental health and I haven't let it slip this time. So I suppose that is one lesson for you, that it actually goes to show that if you're actually doing slightly well mentally, that even bad shit doesn't necessarily rock you as much as it used to. But I eventually moved in. I'm now fully in. I'm settled. My housemates are lovely. They're great crack. It's great to be back with all the lads. I've already gone to a few gigs. I missed live gigs so much. Like really little simple things, you know, being able to go back to my local coffee shop, my vape shop, all of these little places, getting to meet people again, meet new people again, and meet people my own age again. It's great. It's honestly just so refreshing. Like, it couldn't have gone better. Like, don't get me wrong, I still had ups and downs. Obviously, losing a job, losing your relationship, you know, saying goodbye to your house and your dog. None of that is easy. Obviously, of course it's not. And I don't want it to come across as, fuck it, I'm fine. I'm not. It's still a struggle. Like, it's, you know, you still have the good days and the bad days. But the point that I'm trying to make is, I think a lot of people, when they're down, put an awful lot of mass into like the I wish or the I hope. And obviously, depending on what you believe in, if you're religious or you're kind of into spirituality or anything, wishing and hoping and praying and all that obviously works for you, and that's totally fine. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm here to say any different. I'm absolutely not. For me, though, I'm specifically just talking about like the dialogue, the internal dialogue around that whole thing of I wish and I hope. If you sit there and all you do is wish and you hope, realistically, not a lot is going to change. You know, oh, I wish I'd get a job. I wish I could move out. I wish I could get a tattoo. I wish I could learn to ride a bike. I wish I could, you know, be happier. All these things are possible, but you have to actively like do them, like go out of your way and do shit to get there. And that's what I've probably learned the most, is what's the difference between wishing and hoping and actually doing. It's trying, actually just trying. I had absolutely no proof that anything that I was trying to do was gonna work. I didn't. It was fucking just blindly put the head down and keep fucking going, as Jambon himself would say. You know, and actually, in fairness to Jambon, and I will get back to Jambon in a few minutes for anyone who is wondering, but there's another phrase that he said. Now, I don't know where he got it from, but it's honestly is one of the phrases that has been kind of going through my head over the last few weeks. Nothing is easy. Absolutely nothing is easy. You're always going to face obstacles. You're always going to have difficulties. But the phrase that he has said to me before is choose your hard. So basically you have two options in front of you. They're both going to be difficult. You just have to choose which difficulty you're able for, or which difficulty that you want to push through or fight back with. It's a brilliant little saying, 3 words, choose your hard. It could also very much be misinterpreted, but for the sake of what I'm using it for, it's just in relation to like life lessons and stuff, and nothing else. So that's all my little introductions out of the way. You're now mostly caught up as to where I've been and what's been going on in the life of Horse. So now we'll swiftly move on to Movie of the Week.
I watched the film this week, I ain't gonna talk about it. Movie of the week.
So again, I'm not doing this podcast as like a normal podcast. Like I said, this is a whole kind of introduction back. Again, like to the format kind of being rejigged. Movie of the week will stay. But what I want to kind of talk about in relation to movies and stuff this week is, so obviously the last couple of weeks were difficult. There was a lot of ups and downs and tossing and turning and left and right and being pulled left, right and centre and not knowing what in the name of Jesus Christ was going on at all. It's a thing that we do when we're down and we want to watch a movie. We do the same thing with music. We know for a fact that if we listen to something or watch something that's upbeat, like a comedy or something that'll just cheer us up and make us smile, but yet we don't. We do everything in our power to watch the saddest shit and listen to the saddest music that we know will make us cry. Now, I'm not here to argue that watching something or listening to something to make you cry and help you get those emotions out is bad. It's not. Obviously, sometimes we need something like of some sort of a vessel to kind of help us get to the point where we can cry, because some people just can't kind of get there on their own. That is totally fine. I'm not on about a singular situation though. I'm on about like for weeks and weeks and months when you're down, you will continue to ignore all the happy movies or all the happy music because you feel like you're not. It's like sometimes you feel like you're not worthy of listening to happy stuff, or you don't want to listen to the happy stuff because you think, well, this person clearly doesn't understand what I'm going through. So it just, and I've done it. Like, I try and listen to happy music and it just fucking annoys me and it gets me more irritated. So that was a long way around basically saying, when I was back home, one night I watched a sad movie. Well, it's not even that sad, to be fair. It's Spider-Man No Way Home, but it just always makes me cry. It just gets me every time. And I did it. And then the next night I was deliberately, and I caught myself, I was deliberately looking for something else sad. I literally googled sad movies that make you cry, and then I just kind of had like a little, it was almost like an out of body experience where I was just like, why the fuck am I doing this? What benefit is this to me? So I didn't. I can genuinely promise you, for the entire time that I was at home, living with my parents, I watched one movie that made me cry. And the rest of the time, I watched movies that I knew would make me smile and make me laugh. I watched Fool's Paradise, which is Charlie Day's directorial debut. Charlie Day is an actor and a writer on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He wrote this feature-length film. It's really, really good. It's very, very funny. And then I watched Cable Guy for the first time, because I love Jim Carrey, and I don't know why I had never watched it before, but I did, and I continue to do so. And when I was walking to the bus and walking to work, or even on the bus, I was listening to upbeat music and happy music I deliberately skip past every single sad song that I would normally sit there and listen to. And to be fair, that's difficult because majority of my Spotify tends to be sad music. But again, it's all about these little changes, these little things. If you can catch yourself doing them and make that conscious decision to say, no, fuck this, fuck the voice in my head, I'm gonna deliberately put on happy music or something upbeat or something that the lyrics just aren't depressing as fuck. And it works. I can promise you that it genuinely works. Again, I'm not saying if you're sad, don't watch a sad movie. That's totally fine. We all have a bad day and you want to just watch something sad and have a cry. That is totally fine. The issue comes when you're still doing it after a few days or a few weeks or even a few months. That then is when you're just not helping yourself and you're not being nice to yourself. And then that's where I get involved. So I'm sure there's one question on everyone's lips. Where is Jambon? What's happened with Jambon's Corner? And unfortunately, the answer is probably not the answer that you're looking for. So obviously I've moved. And Jambon is still back where we were both living. And unfortunately, modern technology is great. But we can't exactly do Jambon's Corner in the way that it was done over online. It would just be very rigid. It wouldn't be the same. We wouldn't be able to riff off each other because we're very natural. Like me and Jambon are friends for 21 years. Genuinely have never had a falling out. You can't make that up. You can't manufacture that. And we felt like if we were going to try and do it over Zoom or over online, it just wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been the same. And my priority has always been on this podcast that regardless of what I'm actually saying, that the quality of it is good. And I don't want to jeopardize that. And I don't want there to be this rigid segment in the middle. So unfortunately, me and Jambon have had to go our separate ways in a professional podcast manner. Jambon's Corner is no more. I'm not saying that he'll never be on the podcast again. I'm sure he will. And we'll end up having a little Jambon special reunion. So there you go. There was Jambon's last corner. That's actually kind of a bit sad. But there you go, lads. That I know it was a shorter episode, but I'm back and I'm very grateful that you all stuck with me over the last couple of weeks. You are genuinely some of the best people in my life. You are, and I know that it seems like, I don't want it to ever seem like I'm just a man on a screen. I'm not. You're not just a number to me. You're people. I do my best to try and remember all your names and have the chats with you when I'm live on TikTok and stuff. I only have one more thing to ask of you, lads. Obviously now we're down a segment on the podcast, so I really want to try and put a push on the straight from the horse's mouth segment, where you pop me a message or an email or whatever, and I discuss it on the podcast. It doesn't have to even be mental health related. You don't have to tell me all the shit that you're going through. It could literally be, horse, what's your favorite type of cactus? Horse, you meet a man on a night out and he touches your arse, what are you doing? Horse, if you could be in any movie franchise, what would it be? I genuinely don't care what it is, lads. I just want there to be more interaction. I want it to feel more like a family than it already does. I just need a little bit of help from me for that. So you can pop me a message on Instagram at horseo'keefe, or you can send me an email at whythelongfacepod@gmail.com. You don't even have to sign your name. I genuinely don't mind. I just would really, really like to put a push on this now so that we can fill out the podcast that bit more, now that Jambon's Corner is no more. And that's me done. We'll still be staying on the bi-weekly basis for the podcast to come out. It just seems to be the best it works for me the most. It means that I'm not trying to push myself too much to get them out, and then it means that they're actually a little bit better quality because I have more time to think about what I'm saying, as opposed to just being like, fuck, I have to do a podcast again this week. Again, maybe in the future we'll get it down to a week, I don't know, but for now the bi-weekly seems to be working the best for me. So I'll be back in 2 weeks time. with all the usual segments. Hopefully we'll have some more interactions from me throughout. And again, just before I go, thank you so much for being here, for being yourselves, and for supporting me, because none of this would be happening without you. You're as much a part of Horsefuck Heath as I am. I know that kind of sounds a bit weird, but it's true. I'd just be a man talking to myself in a room if I didn't have someone to put this podcast out to. And I don't want you to ever think that I don't appreciate your support, because I appreciate it more than you know, and more than I can even put into words. So lads, for the next 2 weeks, be good, be kind to yourselves, and more importantly than anything else, mind yourselves.